Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Clash Miami. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by SFuels, HOKA, Master Spas, deboer wetsuits, Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Mr. Bradley Weiss, two-time Xterra World Champion. Xterra must seem like history for you, man, but it's still like when you win a World Championship, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely feels like a lifetime ago since I last won an Xterra World title, but yeah, definitely something I'm very proud of, and I worked a long time to sort of build up my my Xterra career to a point that I could be competitive at a World Championships, and to win that race twice is something I think I'll look back on very fondly.
What got you into Xterra originally?
Yeah, so my introduction to triathlon was more through off-road racing. In South Africa, we had a pretty good history of really good Xterra athletes, with Conrad Stoltz and Dan Hugo, and so we had a very good culture of Xterra racing there, and Xterra South Africa has always been a really big event on the calendar, and it was about 40 minutes from my hometown where I grew up in Stellenbosch. So yeah, it just naturally sort of fit into my schedule, and that was kind of the first triathlon races that I was exposed to, and just loved the sport of Xterra. And we went to really remote and unique places around the world, places like Saipan and Guam and
so cool
Philippines, and just really beautiful parts of the world. So yeah, I raced professionally for 8 years on that circuit before transitioning across to the road triathlon, and really thoroughly enjoyed that time.
Was the transition primarily because it's not a lot of money in Xterra? It's hard to make a living there.
Yeah, I feel not sorry for the guys because it's their choice, but it's definitely a very difficult space to make a true profession out of it.
Yes.
There's a very small sort of group of athletes who can make a full-time living off of Xterra, but it's just you can't really compete against the guys in long course racing who are earning significantly more out of the sport, and truly making it into a career that you can potentially retire off of at the end.
So when did you transition? Because you won Xterra Worlds in both 17 and 19.
17 and 19, and 18 was the first year that I started to do a few on-road races. I did Ironman South Africa, and I think it took me until 2019 to win Ironman 70.3 South African.
Yeah, you won Taiwan and South Africa.
Yeah, it was a good sort of transition across to it. At the time, it's amazing how the sport has changed since then. I mean, that's only 5 years ago.
Yes.
But it's a completely different sport already, and if me back then is a completely different athlete to what I am now, and the sport has progressed in a massive way, and the professionalism around Ironman racing has really taken a massive step up.
Right.
And the middle distance racing is now probably the most competitive distance
no question
in our sport.
Well, when you're between what's happening here with T100, and as a guy who has to travel from South Africa or wherever you're based to go do racing and not know, am I going to make a living here or not? Am I going to make any money here or not? To, at the beginning of the season, know, okay, there's 8 of these T100 races. I'm getting paid, and there's prize money there, so you can plan your season. Yeah. You sort of know where the season is going to end. It's all up to you. You still got to race, and you got to race well, but you know what the distances are. You know that you're being compensated and taken care of. That's got to make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, PTO have completely changed the way that professionals can go about the sport now. It's really starting to truly feel like a professional sport, and we're being looked after incredibly well. And just the finer details, things like having indoor trainers at the hotels, having, just how smoothly the race week runs, is something that makes a big difference, and it's obviously adding to the competitiveness of the race on the weekend. But yeah, obviously from a financial side of things, it's a massive load off of our shoulders, knowing that there's a sort of a signed contract fee that we know we'll be getting.
Yes.
And we can kind of rest assured that we can commit ourselves to these big events, prepare correctly for them, and even if you don't have the greatest day, due to whatever reason, you're still going to have enough money in the bank to live comfortably. So it's been a massive step forward in the sport, and just the way that traditionally the sport has been run. As you say, a lot of us I would imagine the majority are on the T100 tour now, are established athletes, and they've got very good sponsors who are looking after them, and they're probably quite well set up financially. So they maybe not relying on prize money as much anymore, but still, when you do a long preparation, probably go to altitude to do a big training camp, go to a race and have a puncture or something like that, and all of a sudden you blow $10,000-$15,000 on a training camp and a whole bunch of travel, and it's all gone. So yeah, it's been very a very different start to the season, probably a more relaxed mindset.
Yes.
But at the same time, as you say, we know the whole season ahead of us. We know what races we're committing to. We are contracted to do 6 of the 8 races on the series, so people can pick and choose, and it'll be interesting to see where athletes choose to kind of like spend their energy and maybe prepare a little bit better for the races that suit them well. But yeah, I'm hoping to have a good start to the season this weekend.
When I look, we were just chatting beforehand, you go to Kona and you get a penalty and up 11th.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't get a penalty, you were 8th or 9th, whatever it happens to be, you're covering the weekend, hopefully.
Yeah.
Covering some of your expenses. You end up one spot out. You basically just invested all the training camp and everything else you're doing.
Yeah.
And coming home with nothing.
Yeah.
You've lost money.
No, exactly. And it's
you can't
a lot of
afford
pressure
that.
of the sport is around that. Is like, I mean, they have changed now on Ironman. It used to be up to 10th. It's now up to 15th, thankfully, the prize money. So it's a little bit deeper. But I mean, the competitiveness of these races, the guys and girls finishing in position 15th to 20th are still phenomenal athletes.
Yes,
and
they are.
They are likely not working another job, and this is how they're making their income. So they walk away from that race making a pretty significant loss financially, and it's a very difficult sort of argument to have with yourself. You really want to be at those bigger races, but at the same time, it is quite a financial risk.
Well, and when you're doing 6 of these races, or 8, all 8 of them, when you go to starting line, it's a world championship field.
Yeah.
There's 20 people who are the very best, and when you look at it, it's a lot of races you can go to. You can go to a 70.3 race, and maybe there's 3 or 4 that you think, okay, they could win.
Yeah.
I don't think you could discount anybody in the top 15 who are here.
Yeah.
They all think they're going to podium.
Yeah, it's a very difficult mind space to be in, and I have obviously, over the last 3 or 4 weeks or months, that I've been preparing for the start of the season.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting mindset of, okay, I'm racing against these guys who typically I would only meet a field like this at a World Championship race in September, October, and all of us are kind of at the peak of our fitness for the season, and we have a big battle, and whoever wins that day. But it's now going to be a little bit different, that we're going to be racing each other on a much more regular basis, and it'll be quite interesting to see how different athletes choose to prepare for the season. And I'm sure some will have a slightly slower start and maybe come out a little bit stronger in the middle of or in the back half of the season. But the way that the season structure works is that it's your best 4 races that count, and T100 Miami counts the same as Vegas or Dubai,
Singapore,
later
or any of them. Yeah.
So my goal was actually to come out the gates quite hot and try and prepare pretty well. I come out of South African heat now, so I should be pretty good in the heat.
Right.
I don't think that'll be a problem for me. I've historically raced quite well in the heat as well.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that Miami turns on the heat for us, and it's a nice hot sweaty day out there. But yeah, I think the biggest kind of mental challenge is just racing against 20 of the best athletes in the world on a regular basis, and it's something we're going to probably have to get used to.
So when I look at this last year and I look at Nice, you had a pretty wonderful opportunity to train with Jan Frodeno, right, in his last year.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people think he's the greatest of all time. What did you take away from, because you could see a guy like that on race day, but you get to see everything, the days he's down, the days he's up. What did you gain from training with Jan?
Yeah, it was a very special time, and I think it was just very fortuitous that I ended up in Andorra. Myself and my wife, we were traveling there anyway, going to do a training camp. Nice was the goal of the 2023 season, and we were trying to decide where we would like to be based, and I wanted to be at altitude, and Cam Worth actually convinced us to come out and try Andorra. So we had booked like a 3-week accommodation apartment there, and we loved it. So we extended the booking and ended up spending 6 months there. And
wow!
In the time frame, we left South Africa and went and raced PTO Ibiza.
Yes.
And I met Jan there. I knew Jan, but we didn't like really have a relationship at that point. And yeah, I mentioned that, I'm coming up to Andorra, and he said, well, let me know you know, when you arrive, and I'll show you around. And I was like, oh, maybe he's probably just saying that, you know, to be nice and not to like just blow me off. And so when I got there, I sent him a message, and he said, oh, he's swimming at 2 p.m. the next day. And yeah, we ended up doing that session together, had a lot in common. And yeah, he's just a super nice guy.
The
actually.
best. Yeah, such
just
good
a really
person.
genuinely good person. And yeah, we had a lot of similarities. Both grew up in South Africa, of course.
Right.
And, so we had a bit of overlap of some connections and some friends, and yeah, it was fun. And of course, just fortuitously, it was his last season, and it was incredibly special to watch that, just how meticulous he is in his preparation towards an event. And I mean, obviously we had to build up to a few events in that time. But World Champs was always the big focus, and sadly it didn't go the way he wanted, or I think all of us kind of wanted it to go well for him.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think it was kind of a fitting way to walk out of an Ironman career. It's not an easy sport, and it even gets the best of us, you know.
Very few people go out on their own terms. Very few people do a Mark Allen and win his last Ironman and drop the mic and move away and never race again.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. The fact he won Milwaukee, right? And that
was the swan song, I think.
That was the swan song.
Yeah.
The other one was just a sort of a little, you know, cherry on top after all that stuff.
Yeah.
And for you, when you're doing Ironman World Championship, the first time ever in Nice, and you get a slotting or whatever the hell they call it, climbing a 12% grade, and then you've got to carry that with you mentally for the rest of the day. How could you put it out of your mind?
Yeah, it was very difficult, and the days leading in, I actually came across he's sort of a motivational character within the US. His name's Jocko Wilkinson or something like that. But anyway, he had he made a YouTube he's like on he makes YouTube content and kind of inspirational videos, and the title of this video was good, and it just basically in summary, it's that like life will always throw challenges at you, and there's different ways that you can go about meeting those challenges. And if you kind of, every time a challenge is thrown your way, you meet it with an answer of good, whether that, you know, whatever challenge that may be, you can kind of approach it in a different way and kind of turn that negativity into positivity. And yeah, when I got the penalty, I was just like, you know what, this is a good opportunity to reset, refocus. I had obviously a lot of fuel on the bike that I could take in. I ate probably, I don't know, whatever, how many calories I had on the bike, drank all my fuels to try and like top it up, and kind of used it as a bit of a break between two sections of the race.
Yes.
So I actually started again after the penalty in a pretty good mindset. But I went way too hard, actually.
Way too hard on the bike.
Yeah.
I feel like I got to make up all that ground now.
Yeah, I went into the penalty box in third or fourth position, I think I was in. And I expected to only start in like 25th, 20 to 30th place. You know, I expected the field to be a lot more congested because we were only 60 Ks into the bike course at that point, but we had gone up a big mountain. So the field had really spread out a lot, and Leon Chevalier come past in about 11th place, I believe, at the time. And he came past, and I had about 30 seconds of my penalty still to serve. So I was like, okay, if I can catch Leon, that'll be a great guy for me to work with. And when I got going again, I caught him within like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh wow, okay, that went quicker than. And I went by him and pushed on, and I chatted with him after the race, and Leon was like, he couldn't believe like how hard I was going for that point in the race. But I mean, he had obviously just climbed up a big mountain and was feeling a bit of fatigue. I just stood still for 5 minutes, completely pissed off. So I kind of used that anger maybe a little bit, went a little bit too hard, and then bridged across to kind of that like 5th through 7th position coming off the bike. But I could definitely feel that I started fading at the end, and I really want to go back to Nice in 2025 and have another crack at it. Obviously, super frustrating to get a drafting penalty going up a 12% gradient climb.
Ridiculous,
Makes no sense. So unfortunately, we are at the mercy of, you know, referees, inexperienced referees who maybe don't understand the dynamics of bike racing as well as they should. But hopefully with companies like Race Ranger who are getting into the T100 Tour, we can have a little bit more of a well-established rule system that
Yes.
doesn't penalize athletes when they're not getting any unfair advantage.
It was interesting when I was chatting with yourself and Braden Curry and with Brent McMahon, all the guys with Xterra backgrounds.
Yeah.
This is the greatest bike course I've ever seen in a road triathlon.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then Sebastian Keeneland went and rode it, and he's like, "Oh my God, the road furniture and all the sheer drop-offs. This course is spectacular." I'm guessing you love the course.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I can't wait to go back as well. Definitely a course that suits my
you
strengths.
so well.
I couldn't have asked for somebody to design a better course for me. I also really love to swim in the Mediterranean Ocean, that salt water and the extra buoyancy. I mean, it was the first time I swam front pack in a race in my life. I was pretty surprised coming out the water as well, even like halfway. We never actually got out the water, but we sort of swam in M shape.
Right.
And coming around the turn to start the second half of the second half of the swim, I was just convinced that I'd been dropped at that point. And then we took the turn and I saw the lead kayaker and I was like, why is he lead in the front of our pack? And then I saw Jan's swim cap and I was like, shit, I'm actually in the front group here. And it actually like startled me a little bit and I almost lost contact with the group at that point. So yeah, it was great to finally swim front pack and prove to myself that all the years of swimming is finally starting to pay off. And yeah, hopefully I can do the same.
Was that the biggest adaptation coming from Xterra? It's the swim. It's so fast on the road tri.
Is really, really fast. It's crazy. And a lot of the ITU athletes who are coming across to middle distance racing are really pushing that swim pace now. You really have to be a top swimmer unless you have the bike strength of a Sam Long or Magnus Dietlev. You're not coming back into these races if you are 3 or 4 minutes down.
What do you look at as the best race you've ever had? And it could be a race that maybe meant the most to you. Doesn't mean a win. It could be something that, you know what, this race told me I could be a pro. This race told me I could be the best.
I mean, 2017 Xterra World Championships, I really dominated that event and kind of just came off of the end of the race feeling like, you know, I was definitely the best athlete on the day. And it was probably the first time I've felt that kind of dominance in a World Championship race. But then obviously looking at road racing, I think the race in Nice was probably one of my best. Also just the preparation with Jan going into the event, you know, it ticked a lot of boxes in terms of like what you want and what we all search for within triathlon. And yeah, I'll always look back on 2023 as a very special year for me.
I'm sure there were times when you're both training together and iron sharpens iron, there's times where this guy's the best in the world and I know he's suffering right now.
Yeah.
Right? You're making him suffer.
Yeah.
And that's cool because, you know.
Didn't happen that often, but.
But even if it happened once, you're going, that gives you a lot of confidence going, okay.
No, for sure, especially because we were preparing for such a specific course in Nice.
Yes.
And my strength is climbing on the bike, so whenever we did intervals on mountains.
And he's a huge guy.
I was quite a bit stronger than him on the climbs. So it was nice to finally have something small that I could actually have over him. But he took it really well, and he kind of used it as an opportunity to improve himself as a cyclist.
Right.
And he's amazing in the mountains. I mean, people don't realize just how well that guy can climb and descend.
He does everything.
Yeah.
He's just the ultimate all-arounder, right? He can do it all.
Yeah.
And the sport, we lose, you know, Sebi, we lose Jan, but there's so many of these I mean, I think the sport with what's happening with 70.3 and what's happening with T100 and Super League, it's probably the best era we've ever had for a pro, to be a pro.
No, absolutely. I don't think the sport has ever been in a better place. It's a little bit kind of disjointed in a way that there's different companies
they're fighting for the same
They claim
turf.
they're not fighting, but they are.
They're fighting. They're fighting.
It's a difficult argument to have that, you know, that they genuinely don't care, because I'm sure that they do.
They do.
But at the same time, for us as professional athletes, we're very spoiled for choice at the moment. And I think everybody, regardless of the tier of athlete that you are, there's a space for you in the sport now.
Yes.
Where before the opportunities were so small that, you know, if you are developing pro, there wasn't really a platform for you to go and actually win a race. Whereas now, because the T100 Tour has taken sort of the top 20 men, 20 women out of the normal general run of the season.
It's a great point. You can go to a 70.3 on those same weekends and go win yourself something.
Exactly, and you can prove yourself to your sponsors that way and hopefully get the attention of the PTO, who are definitely still looking at the up and comers. Yeah. And maybe get yourself a wild card. So I think, athletes mustn't get too down on themselves if they're not a part of the series, and kind of use it as an opportunity to hopefully grow their own profile.
Well, just this week, Javier isn't making it, Annie Hogg isn't making it, Jody Stimpson's. There's a lot of athletes dropping out, and those wild cards move in, and then that opens up some other races. Everybody wins. The other 100%. Thing that by having competition, Ironman was in a position where they didn't have to up their prize money. They would not have created this World Series that I think they're doing. I don't think there's any question about that.
No, they would never have
and
done
they
it.
wouldn't be doing the media coverage that they're doing now, because PTO has led the way and T100 has led the way. So I look, everybody wins. When the pros are successful and race directors are successful, we all win. That's what it's all about.
Hopefully it continues.
Yes.
And we don't take a step backwards at some point. But for now it's been wonderful to be a part of, and hopefully it continues to grow, and look forward to being a part of the inaugural T100 tour, and hopefully I can get myself up there on the series.
Now, have you raced a racetrack event yet?
I did Daytona and I hated it.
Was that the 2020, the first one with the big prize money?
So I really hope, again, the reasons that Ironman World Champs in Nice suits me really well is the reasons that Daytona doesn't suit me at all.
You get into aero position and you stay there.
And the thing is,
this one's got some road handling too.
It does. So I look forward to racing on a slightly different type of racetrack. It's flat, but it's still got it's got a fair amount of technical turns and cornering.
It'll be windy,
and the wind plays a factor.
Heat.
The heat will be great for me. I hope we have a really hot day and the humidity turns up a little bit, because we had a bit of rain overnight and it's pretty humid out there today.
It is.
So I think there are factors within this race that can suit me well, and it'll be interesting to see the level of everybody coming out. We now 6th of March. It's pretty early to have a field like this racing against one another. I think there'll be some athletes who've prepared well over the winter, and others who maybe will realize that they got a bit of work to do.
Love it. Bradley, thank you so much for taking time. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Bob. Love it.
Bradley Weiss has been our guest again. Breakfast with Bob, Clash Miami. Hold on. We will be right back.